Good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pembroke School Committee meeting for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. It's nice to be back with all of you. It's been a while. This is our call to order. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Is there a public comment? Has anyone signed up for public comment? We have one. Oh, no.
That's a no. No.
Without the good glasses, I'm seeing one person. Okay, so I thought I was doing pretty good. So there's no public comment. Acknowledge and schedule of visitors. I think we're okay. Our studio audience, nice to see you, of course. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Nope.
Any communications?
I just had one.
Oh.
Is that, So I know with the weather outside today, doesn't feel like it, but May is right around the corner. And the Historical Society is seeking volunteers for the May 3rd fish fry. So that can be high school kids or just any member of the community. So if you're interested, please reach out to them directly or to me and I can connect you.
Thank you. That is a touch of Americana. I love that day. That is so much fun. Parking is tough, but I do enjoy it. Approval of bill schedule.
They haven't gone out yet. They should go out in the morning.
Yeah, okay, I don't think I remember seeing them. Consideration for approval, I'll take a motion for the school committee meetings of February 3rd, 2026.
I have one edit. I think there was a name, it's for, I don't recall offhand, but it says a public figure, but I do think everybody did name themselves who spoke.
Yep.
So I'd like to check that.
Yep, I have this on it.
Yep.
The public figure, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, in the third
Yes.
paragraph, we
Yes.
have a name.
Something or other.
Yeah.
Okay, any other adjustments? I will take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Nobody? Natalie, it's 5-0. That makes it easy. Superintendent's report.
So we are starting our series of budget presentations tonight. So we're going to start with each of the building-based presentations, so elementary, middle school, and high school. Just a reminder, as we go through the budget cycle, we give you building budgets, department budgets, overall budgets. It's an opportunity for our building leaders and department heads and curriculum and content supervisors to take a look at their department and really put forward to you a list of goals and requests that help them take their building or their department to the next step. I don't like to use the word wish list because I think that's lofty. These are not necessarily that, but they are developed in a vacuum at this stage. So, for example, Mark is just thinking about Pembroke High School and what does Pembroke High School need to move it to the next level. When we come back to you with administrative priorities, that's when we start to rank them. So tonight you're going to hear about a whole lot of great things that each of our building principals would like to accomplish in their buildings for next year, understanding that the potential that we're going to get them all is pretty slim, but it's important for each of the departments and each of the buildings to have goals that we're working towards regardless of the fiscal climate. So with that, I have them loaded in order, so I'm going to start with the elementary budget presentation.
Okay, I'm going to take this off, and I can't believe we're here again already at budget time. Just in case anybody at the table does not know how this works, even though Mr. Talbot works in a vacuum sometimes, like was just said.
I used him on purpose.
Wow.
We do not at the elementary school. Closer, sure. Can you hear me now? Perfect, very good. So obviously Mark does his work at the high school. With the three elementaries, we're forced to obviously work together, and we do that very well.
Forced.
Wow. Asked to work together.
You got this. You got this. Able to work all together. Able.
Look forward
So, the three building principals do get together, and we talk about our individual buildings, and there's a lot of commonalities, obviously, with that. So we take a look at data, we take a look at our school improvement plans, and then we kind of come together and say, what would we really like to have in our buildings to make that work even better than it already is? So all that work has been done. It's been going on for months at this point. So I'm going to take you through just kind of like the overview of the budget. We're each going to speak to portions of the slide, and at the end you can ask any questions you want, or you can even interrupt us in the middle. It doesn't really matter. So historical and projected enrollment we're going to go through. We're going to go through our current enrollment, our current class sizes. We're going to go through our projected 26-27 class sizes. Ashley's going to talk a little bit about our district-wide programming needs, which is specific to Hobomok, but does encompass all of our schools and our old students. We're going to take a look at our FY26 funded priorities, and then move to our FY27 Tier 1 and Tier 2 budget priorities. And then we're going to kind of finish up with Hobomok's moderate special education needs, specific to that school. And then we're going to end on our FY27 Tier 1 budget costs and justifications. So we're going to walk through that. Moving to the next slide. This is just a visual of our projected enrollments, historical and projected enrollments, dating back to 21-22 school year, all the way up until the present. I know the graph looks to be like there's huge differences between the buildings. There's really not. It's just the way that it prints out. I would take a look at the building numbers. So if you take a look at, North at 451, Hobomok at 411, and Bryantville 444, historically speaking, all the way up, that's on the left-hand side, and then moving all the way over to the right-hand side, being present day, 443 for North, 393 for Hobomok, and 406. We're all within a certain range. I mean, North has always had a little bit more of a population. A little bit of that is accounted for through our preschool program, because it does house upwards of 70 students or so. That's actually not even reflected on here. However, it is part of the total number, and we'll get to that in future slides. So then we break it down even further, and we take a look at our grade spans. Obviously, Bryantville and Hobomok do service students K through 6, where North Pembroke does service the students pre-K through grade 6. So we have that little bump at the end there, about 75, 76 students. What you're going to see here is, the current number of students. Bryantville at 399, Hobomok 382, and then North with 438 in that K through 6 population, and then an additional 76, bringing us up to about 515-ish or so for North Pembroke. And also what's very helpful is actually really taking a look at the numbers of home rooms. And actually, you can see a lot of equity across all three buildings with that, based upon the numbers. So Bryantville having about 21 homerooms, Hobomok on the lesser side at 20, and North having 21 homerooms, and then 4 individual homerooms for preschool. So as we get into current class sizes, that's this year's numbers. There's a couple of things that are highlighted on this slide, if you can see here. And it's under Hobomok, and you're going to see it broken down into the numbers of students, the numbers of teachers, and then the average class size. We are equitable all throughout. We're all holding 3 teachers per grade level in each of our buildings, with the exception of Hobomok, just based upon their enrollment. For this year and going into next year, which you'll see on the next slide. Hobomok currently has 2 5th grade teachers and 2 6th grade teachers, just due to enrollment, and that does happen from time to time. And it also happens on the other end too, where sometimes we actually had 4 sections, and I can remember days where we used to have 4 sections throughout as well. So that's a little bit about our current class sizes.
Just to stop, Michael, for 1 second.
Yeah.
The Hobomok homeroom sizes include students in our district-wide programs as well. So some students, let's say in that 49 kids in grade 5, some may join their peers for homeroom and snack and specials, or science and social studies, or some just for, morning meetings, some not at all. So there's definitely some fluctuation in those homeroom numbers there.
And that's where the 19 or 20 teachers' homerooms come in?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's an error on the previous slide where it says Hobomok number of homerooms, it should say 19.
Oh, got it.
So it's 21, 19, 21.
Okay. I had one question on the previous slide to the red one.
I see Bryantville has 399 students and 21 homerooms, and at North it has 438 and 21 homerooms. So just speak to like how that breaks up
Yeah.
maybe by grade.
It's a scary number. It looks like,
Yeah.
however, when you spread that across all grade levels, it's not quite as scary as it looks like. And
Yeah.
actually, they're pretty well equitable if you take a look at the average numbers of students in our homerooms. There are pockets of a little bit more, like I know my fourth grade right now, I'm sorry, my fifth grade is on the heavy side.
Yep.
But we all do, hit that average 18 to 22-ish numbers of students.
Got it. I just wanted to, because I saw the numbers on the next page, and
Yeah.
it's not as terrifying as when you.
Absolutely.
So we're just reminding that our class size ideals that we work towards are 22 or under grades K through 2 and 25 or under grades 3 through 6.
Totally, yeah, so they're all 25 or under on the next page with the breakdown by class. Yeah.
Perfect. So as we move along, you're going to see our projected 26, 27 class sizes as well. And you're going to see us again highlighting Hobbamock. Everybody's still at the 3 teacher level and with the same approximate class sizes. However, next year at Hobbamock, based upon the enrollment there coming up from grade 4 to grade 5, you're seeing 61 students, which would warrant traditionally an additional teacher. So we can talk about kind of how we get there in a little bit. But that would give us a class size average of at 20 for that grade level at Hobbamock, bringing us right in line with all of the other schools, with the 2 other schools. And so our totals are there for our projected class sizes. And what I will say is you'll also see kindergarten numbers on here being at 60 through all 3 buildings. And that's pretty typical of what we do at this point in time. We do anticipate having about 60 students in each of our buildings. However, sometimes we're on the lower end or the upper end based upon registration. So we're in the thick of registration right now as well. So those are not 100% solid numbers. There's always some fluctuation in there. All right. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley.
One quick question.
Yes.
When, can you give us an estimate of like when we should expect those numbers to be more solid? Usually closer to the summer.
Closer to the summer, I would say by May, we're actually doing our kindergarten screening, so we have a really good idea by May about what that looks like.
Thank you. That's
Yeah, so if we're, so generally we look for 22 students or fewer in a kindergarten class. So if we're hovering around 47 or 48 in any building, we'll staff it at 3. Gives us some flexibility, so.
Thank you.
Perfect. So this year, we also added just some historical and projected enrollment numbers for our district-wide programming. I know in the past, we've asked for a lot for these programs, so we just want to be sure that we're transparent about what these historical and projected numbers look like for the students in these programs. As Michael spoke to a little bit ago, these programs are housed at Hobbamock, but they house students from all 3 elementary schools. So you'll see in the pie chart down in the bottom right where these students typically come from based on their neighborhood or home schools. So Bryantville has 40% of the students in our district-wide program, North 30, and Hobbamock 30%. So it is a pretty equitable makeup of where the students come from, but they are all housed at Hobbamock for their special education needs. Just looking over time of how many classrooms we started with at Hobbamock back in 2020 to 2021, there were 3 district-wide classrooms. Moving into this current year, we have 5 special education substantially separate classrooms. We are in the process of building that social emotional program as well. We are still hiring for that program. We have hired an RBT for the program, but we still are seeking a BCBA or LABA, which is that behaviorist tied to the program part-time, and also a special education teacher. So no students have moved over into the program yet because we want to make sure that we're fully staffed before we, really get up and running with that rather than hodgepodging it with partial staffing in the program. So for next school year, we are projected to have 16 PACE students and 24 PTC students. So those are just the 2 different strands of programs that we have at Hobbamock. And then for our social emotional program, that number is to be determined because we have not proposed any students to move over into that program yet, but that will be part of the special education process over time. And then just looking at the fiscal year 26 funded priorities, so this was last year. We did hire a 1.0 full-time math interventionist that has been split between the 3 elementary schools. She spends 2 days at Hobbamock, 2 days at North, and 1 day at Bryantville. We hired Heather Whitman, is that how you say?
Whitman, yeah.
Whitman, I didn't know how to pronounce her last name, from Whitman Hanson, and she was a math interventionist there, so that was a really good hire. She's acclimated very well to all 3 buildings. She's seeing groups, kids are loving going with her, so it's been a very nice addition. And then I just spoke about the district-wide social emotional program. That has been funded, but we still are in the process of hiring for that. So we're hopeful to find a special education teacher and a part-time behaviorist in the near future so we can get those pieces of the puzzle solidified going into the summer and next school year. I'm going to speak generally.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Absolutely. But you gotta come
Get
up.
to get to the microphone, please, thank you. And
I
if
think it's
you-
easier for you to ask while we're on it, right, than wait till we're.
If you just say your name and your address so we know who you are, please.
Jean Comfort, 29 Adams Ave.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what is the criteria? I see the significant growth in your special education programs. What is the criteria that you're using that has resulted in this significant level of growth over these past 4 years that I see?
Sure. So if you look at the overall numbers, they've been pretty steady from even 2020 to 2021. So they range anywhere from the high 30s into the 40s, and the criteria for each program is a little bit different. So obviously we're looking at individualized student needs and least restrictive environment. So depending on a student's special education programming, if they're not making effective progress in their current placement, we do look at more restrictive programming. So both the strands of special education programs at Hobbamock service different types of populations with kids with different types of needs. So we have our PACE program, which looks at students who have more significant needs, may have lower cognitive profiles or behavioral needs as well, where our transition program services a higher functioning group of students, and they do more inclusion time based on their level of need, but are typically accessing more grade level curriculum than the other group of students.
Okay, is that written anywhere?
So we have program descriptions on the website, for each of the programs, and it tells you what the acronym means for each of those and kind of what types of students typically qualify for services in those programs. But again, it's based on individual needs, so looking at the student and whether or not they're making progress in their current placement.
Great, thank you very much.
And Jane, some
Appreciate
of the
it.
driver is also the student's age, right? So we're able to keep grade spans of students together, but once the span is 48 months, we have to add an additional classroom. So K1, 2 could be together, but if we have a 3rd grader, we need another classroom for that. So
Okay,
some of the
great.
additions in the past have been for that
Thank you, I
reason.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to speak a little bit to the Tier 1 and Tier 2 budget priorities, and then when Jen goes through her slides, she's going to talk about the justification for why we're asking about them, so I'm not glaring over that. She's going to get into a little bit more depth in a few slides. So for Tier 1 budget priorities for this year, we are looking to reinstate our STREAM specialists. So we're asking for 3 full-time paraprofessionals to incorporate STREAM back into the rotation for specialists, 1 in each building. We are asking for 2 additional math interventionists so we can have 1 full-time in each building. We're asking for 3 full-time registered behavior technicians, which we would allow 1 in each building. 9 full-time kindergarten paraprofessionals, which would allow for 3 in each building, 1 in each kindergarten classroom. We're additionally asking for 1 full-time special education moderate teacher at Hobbamock, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then additionally 2 curriculum items for all 3 elementary schools, our FOSS science curriculum and a simplified writing curriculum. And Jen, again, will talk about both of those in more depth. Our Tier 2 budget priorities are, for that first section that you're seeing at the top, are essentially the same positions, just in less quantity. So if we can't get 3 paraprofessionals for STREAM, we'd like at least 1, so we can then rotate them between the 3 buildings. Similar to the math interventionist, if we can't get 2, we're looking for 1 additional, so on and so forth. And then 2 additional items that we are seeking for Tier 2 budget priorities would be a hydration station at Bryantville. That's those water filling stations that have the automatic bubbler for water bottles, but also a water bubbler for students attached, and a 0.5 social worker to service the district-wide programs at Hobomok, where we'll have 6 classrooms there next year. So because the Hobomok Bonner special education teacher is obviously unique to my building, I'm going to speak a little bit to why we're asking for that. You'll also see this in Jessica's presentation as well, after speaking with her, as far as what we need for a special education teacher at Hobomok. And then Jen is going to speak to the other items that we're requesting for Tier 1 budget priorities. So if you look at the left, we have a historical moderate caseload. So this is how many students our moderate special education teachers are responsible for at Hobomok. So we currently have 2 moderate special education teachers. When I say moderate, that's talking about students that belong to Hobomok only. They're not in those district-wide programs. They're true special education special education students that belong to Hobomok, and typically are in your general education classrooms for the majority of their day, but have some pull-out services with a special education teacher, whether that's in ELA or math, science and social studies, executive functioning. It's really more academic and concentrated in specific areas. So as you can see from that historical chart to what's projected for next year, we typically run anywhere between 30 to 35 to start our school year with our 2 teachers. So that gives them, on average, anywhere from 14 to 17 students on their caseload to start the school year. And then as students are picked up for special education throughout the year, that number obviously increases. We typically drop a few students who are no longer eligible, which kind of balances out throughout the school year. However, if you look at the number for 26-27 projected, when I did this slide last week, we were at 40. As of today, we're at 43. So that number is climbing exponentially. So with 43 students already projected into next year, that gives each moderate special education teacher 21 and 22 students on their caseload, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's
terrible.
It's very high.
If that were to stay that
so
way.
not only are they responsible for providing those special education services, they're also responsible for writing their IEP, writing their progress note throughout the year, and also if there's any special education testing, if they're due for testing, they're responsible for that as well, attending any special education meetings that are tied to that student. So when you have 15 as compared to 21 or 22, it is multiplies the work, not only with services, but also with paperwork as well. And again, we still have evaluations pending that could result in more students being picked up for services for next school year as well. And then just looking at evaluation, so how many students required an initial or reevaluation. So a reevaluation typically happens every 3 years with students that are already on IEPs, but also students who are initially referred for special education. Again, if you look at the numbers here, the numbers from 21-22 to 24-25 are what we've ended the year at. So for example, in 21-22, we only had 22 evaluations total. Right now, we are at 36 evaluations, and again, there are still evaluations pending, and there's plenty of school year left. So last year, we ended the year at 50, which is a really high number, and we're projected to be right around that for this year as well. And then if you look on the other side of the chart, the slide rather, we have 2 charts there. So your daily pullout service delivery minutes by instructional grouping. So what I did was I looked at all of the students who would be on IEPs for next year. We would need 450 daily minutes of reading groups for the students that are already on plan. So this is nothing projected, this is what we currently have. And I did that by each subject area. So what we're looking at is needing a total daily minutes, a total of 870 minutes for all of the students that are currently on IEPs from kindergarten to 6th grade. With 2 teachers, we only are at 650 minutes. So as you can see that discrepancy, what we have to do in order to accommodate that is we're tapping into multi-grade level groupings. So we might be pulling a 4th grader and a 5th grader together to work on a similar writing skill because developmentally they're at the same level or working on the same skill, but they're not in the same grade level. And by law, that's fine, but it would be more meaningful to be able to separate those students into grade level spans rather than having multi-grade level groups. We also have some multi-subject groups in order to meet those needs as well. So we may have a student who has an executive functioning goal where they're working on organization and things like that. And what we're doing is we're partnering them up with a group that might be working on written language, because we know that executive functioning skills, organizing, writing may overlap, and we can get away with that overlap of a subject area, but we feel it would be more meaningful and more appropriate to have them separated. Again, as I spoke about paperwork, of course, more students on plans require more paperwork, so hopefully being able to decrease the amount of paperwork that the teachers are responsible for with an added special education teacher, and then also increasing inclusion opportunities. So right now, because there are so many pull-out services for our moderate special education teachers, they're very limited on the amount of time they can push into the general education setting. So we are having our paraprofessionals do that. Again, IEPs dictate what that can look like, and we're able to do that legally, but it would be more meaningful to have special education teachers provide more inclusion time versus paraprofessionals. So we want to be able to increase that as well. So again, we're asking for an additional moderate teacher in order to kind of spread the wealth of all of the students that are slotted to be picked up for special education services into next year.
So quick question.
Yeah.
So I'm flipping back and forth. So you
Sure.
would ask for like the one full-time special ed teacher at Hobmock, but it looked like under the tier 2, you have the 0.5 district-wide social worker.
Yeah, so those are just two separate asks. So we need the 1.0 special education teacher regardless to ensure compliance with IEPs and things like that. The 0.5 district-wide program social worker, we're looking at adding additional programs to the building, especially with that social emotional program, and that was an ask that we had last year for part of the program. So that is a tier 2 ask. They're very unrelated. They're
Okay,
just
I was just
yeah,
curious.
no, that's
That
okay. I know that's why those top 4 were kind of the contingent ones, and
Yes.
the ones at the bottom were separate.
Got it.
Hi. Is that good? Hopefully. Okay, perfect. So as Ashley said, when you take a look at our like tier 1 priorities, the Hobmock special ed teachers sort of like more a need than a want.
Right, so
The
when we bring
rest
you
of
level
it-
1 priorities, we peel off the requirements. So usually whether it's a special ed teacher or an ESL teacher, those come off of the asks because they're needs, not asks.
Yeah. But we still want lots of others. So as Ashley mentioned before, we're going big on our tier 1 and we're asking for everything for everybody. The stream, I think we've had numerous conversations all together about the importance that the parents, the kids, the staff feel stream the opportunity that's provided for the kids. So if we could get that back, that would be great. The math interventionist, Heather, is doing an amazing job. We have her 1 day a week, and that's because we already have the Title I money, so we already have a Title I tutor, so we have some part-time math tutoring in addition to that. And being able to have that and have those small groups of kids utilize that intervention, you can see change when they just did this round of iReady data. Just Bryanville, I'm talking about because I was just inundated looking at it today. But when Melinda separated it into like low growth, high achievement, high growth, low achievement, the majority of the kids that have been getting this intervention, they may not have been at the high achievement, but they were at the high growth. So we're definitely helping those kids by meeting that need. So to bring that in to all the buildings at a more consistent and sort of mirror the reading specialist model where we're seeing such growth on that end too would be great. The RBT, it seems so simple to like just have this RBT person in a building, the change this person can make is crazy. I want one all the time.
They fight over her. So.
We do, and I am without at the moment. It's just like, it really just seems so simple, like, oh, this person's just going to be here for this few hours and work with this kid and really try to help them with structure and transition and meeting their needs and showing the teachers just like simple things like, you know, if the 10 isn't working, and this was Bridget telling me specifically with the student, like if we think 10's too much, drop it to 5, but don't make a new one of 5. Leave the top 5 and make them earn the bottom 5 so they're still thinking it's 10. And then you can take one away and it can be 6. Like just little things like that are just so helpful, and the impact it's having, at least on my kids when she was at my building, was tremendous. So again, for all of us to access a human like that would be tremendous. And same with our kindergarten rooms. So we haven't had kindergarten paraprofessionals for a while. And I think at one time we were able to sort of get by successfully. But I think what we're seeing is the kindergartners we're getting are a whole different kind of kindergartner. They're coming at different levels. They're coming with different experience. They're coming with a whole different society that they're living in than we lived in. And the class sizes are a little larger. They're coming from preschools where they're in a class of 15 with 2 or 3 grown-ups, and now they're in a class of 22 with 1 grown-up, and they don't know how to be patient and wait. So really having another person in that room with those teachers just to be able to put out little fires, even tie shoes or find the stuffy that they can't find, instead of having that impact be on the whole class for a tremendous amount of time, we really think having that person can just help. And the more we're putting in to the little people, I think it'll help them all have more success as they're getting older. We're just trying to help you out.
Thank you.
That's all it is. You're welcome.
I'll take off some of my budget requests.
Exactly. You're welcome.
We're the vacuum.
You are. So that slide that I did just sort of fly by with the little note and picture, that was to show you the impact of the curriculum. So we've had teachers that have been piloting FOSS units and kits this year, and the kids that are completing them love them. And this was a note that I got from a first grade group, which I wanted to put in, and I hope you actually read it in the phonetic spelling. Like, I mean, it's pretty magical. So not only does it show how much they love the science, but I think the writing also speaks to the simplified writing program is really starting to have an impact. And then the UFly and Haggerty investment with the phonetics, I mean, so everything that we've asked for and you've provided, and everything that we're hoping to move forward with in the future, and Melinda will talk a lot more, or did already? Yeah, she did already, about FOSS and writing. We're only seeing benefits from that, so to be able to keep that going would be great. And then, like Ashley said, our tier 2 is just cutting down on our tier 1. We'll take 1 if we can't get all. And I think, and I only have 1 hydration station, so if we're going big, I want another one.
So just to point out, the FOSS science, that's the cost for the living materials at each building. The actual curriculum adoption, as Melinda spoke about it a few weeks ago, is like $160,000. This is just the...
That would be the building implication.
Right.
Yeah, I got to see a first grader's book. She was walking out to show her mom. I was like, can I see the back of that? I want to see it. And it was FOSS, so I got quickly flipped through it, so I was excited that I got to see who put them yesterday.
Quick question about kindergarten. I know you mentioned, needing potentially additional paraprofessionals, and perhaps you can't answer this if it's going to reveal student data, but I'm just curious, if we added paraprofessionals, would it potentially allow kids to stay in district who might be out of district in kindergarten? I don't know if we actually have any kids out of district in kindergarten, but
So
off the
we
top of
already
my head.
have paraprofessionals assigned to the district-wide programs. So those students that come from either the PTC or the PACE program and go into kindergarten are typically with paraprofessionals or their special education teachers.
Got
So
it.
these paraprofessionals would be more of like a general education support, supporting the classroom as a whole.
Got it.
And I don't think we have any kindergartners out of district, if any. Not
Probably, yeah. Okay, got it. Just trying to see like if it would
Yeah.
balance needs and.
These
some-
the kindergarten classrooms do not have any paraprofessional support unless they have students with IEPs.
So it'd be more like that tier one intervention,
Right.
allow a general education paraprofessional to provide those accommodations through our DCAP or small groups in the classroom setting.
Got it. That makes
As a
sense.
district, we do not have any general education paraprofessionals right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me go down the line. Allison, any questions?
Nope.
Sue?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I, can completely see why you would need the paraprofessionals in the kindergarten, especially that one-on-one, just how are the teachers with that many kids in the classroom able to have that needed one-on-one time with the kindergartners? It's, so I totally get it. I wish we had $1 million more, but hopefully we can figure something out.
Katrina, questions?
No, thank you.
I have another question. Sorry to be
No, no,
annoying.
that's all right.
Do we, and we might not have the data on this, I'm just curious, and I can also do some after this meeting, just looking at other districts and the paraprofessionals that they do or do not have for kindergarten. I'd just be curious to kind of see where other districts are at with that.
I know a lot of times with budget deficits, it's one of the first things to go because they're not necessarily tied to special education support, so.
Right.
Right, so kindergarten paraprofessionals used to be fully grant funded all the way through 2012. In 2012, the state started to scale back the quality of full-day kindergarten grant, and so instead of one per classroom, it was half per classroom, then it was a third per classroom, and then it became 100% district responsibility to fund, and we started to phase them out at that point because we did not have the ability to fund that internally. So there are a couple of districts around us that have what we would consider to be general education paraprofessionals spread throughout their buildings. Sometimes they're doing lunch and recess duties, sometimes they're supporting in kindergartens, but there's not a lot of districts that have solely kindergarten paras.
Got it. Would you all be open to like having the paras be potentially spread out? Or do you feel like it needs to stay in kindergarten for it to be what you envision it?
I think we're looking at the greatest need right now in kindergarten with just the readiness skills of the kids coming in. And I think that once we can kind of get that under control, I think we have those bigger conversations in future years about that. But for right now, I think that we would need to be putting our
Heads
resources at
together.
that level.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
We good? Thank you very much. Dawn?
All right, hello. Is this good? Okay, great. I can't really see the screen, so hopefully I'm going to be looking only one forward. All right, perfect. All right, so I'm going to go through the enrollment first, and then I gave a lot of detail on class sizes. And I wanted to talk through the elective restructure that happened last year. So you can see what the offerings are for students, optional offerings, and then into my budget request. So for the student enrollment, you'll see I gave a 10-year trend, so you could just see over time what the trend line looks like. So in 16-17, we were 505, and I'm anticipating 352 students for next year. A little bit of bumps here and there, but regularly kind of a trend down. Oh. A call out will help me remember. All right, and here to break it down, so.
So when you turn the page, click the button.
Oh, gosh, here we go. All right, there we go. I don't live in a vacuum, so I'll take support. All right. So the middle school is the first time that the 3 elementary schools kind of make the big transition to a secondary level. So I wanted to break down for you kind of what that looks like. And there's enrollment data that goes out in October. That's kind of a state report. I just wanted to document that like I did it real time in February, just in case there's a discrepancy in the numbers you might see from other previous presentations. Okay? So 53 students in Bryanville, 49 in Hogmark, 55 in North, anticipating 157 students in our 7th grade for next year. In our current 7th grade, who will be moving up, are at 195. So again, we'll be at an enrollment of 352, and we're at 374 right now currently.
When you turn on the click, I got
okay.
you.
All right. So I know this is a busy slide, but I wanted to really give you the breadth of what the class size average looks like, as well as the range and the amount of sections for each class that's offered. So as you can see, in 7th grade, ELA is running 21 for regular, 31 for accelerated, 22 to 25 in math, social studies 27, as does science, and then our STEP labs are running 23 and PE at 25. When you look at these, and then you can see the number of sections we offer in the second row, and then the range. The range can vary because it's hard to make it fully even, because one of the things that I build into our schedule is department preps, and that can cause some discrepancy in how kids get distributed based on what their course requests are. When you look at these 7th grade numbers in the top box, these would just kind of almost transfer down to 8th grade, because the 7th grade would have the same amount of sections, and it would be approximately that same class sizes there. We look at 8th grade, numbers are slightly smaller, 28 being the highest, down to 20 for the class average, again with a range. So I wanted to let you know, that should say FY 27 projected, not FY 26 in the bottom line. When you look at that box, it'd be about 3 less per section that's available, and that would be what 7th grade would look like next year, we would anticipate. Okay? All right, this is just more of the classes. So we offer French and Spanish, just to show you the difference in what those sections look like. This year I added in Title I support, so similar to the elementary school where they have a math interventionist and a reading specialist. Like Bryanville, we have Title I support, which is a federally funded program. We are able to offer students who, based on teacher requests of the data, need additional support in ELA and math, additional support with an ELA and a math teacher. So we don't have a math interventionist or a reading specialist, but we have our actual content teachers teach those class sizes. So like a learning center, those are targeted to be a smaller class, and they meet every other day. And then these are all, at the bottom, are all the electives and the class sizes. So you can see there's a real range there.
Can we just take a minute and pause on those French numbers? It's been a long time since we've had French numbers of 19 and 23.
So the French numbers, yes. So I think that the French numbers are going up, which is exciting, because I know Civis is very committed to maintaining the French program. Students are very excited about the French program. They really commit to it. I think the Quebec trip helps a lot, and I think her passion as an educator helps a lot. Also, a couple of years ago, my school council and my student council thought that having student representatives come with me to the presentations to the elementary schools would help. And the kids did a really nice job selling it. And so I didn't bring them last year, even though the numbers maintained, but my goal is to bring them back again this year, so that the 6th grade students really end up hearing more student voice as they go up to the middle school and think about the choices.
The band number went up too.
The band number went up too, so band also, when we brought the French students up, they were also band students, so they were able to talk to that. And, you know, I think it's really important. The hard years of band in 5th and 6th grade get easier the more you stick with it, right? And so parents have made a lot of commitment of time and money, and at some level their peace in the house, right, when kids are practicing their instruments. And so like when you get to 7th grade, you are getting much more instruction, just like at the high school, the way up through, and their skills improve dramatically. So we always hope to maintain as much of the band as possible. We do get a little drop off, 6th into 7th and a little bit into 7th into 8th, but it is pretty solid, so it's good. All right, so last year, as you may remember, it doesn't feel like it was a whole year ago, there was some feedback that could we look at the elective offerings and see what we could do. In addition to restructuring elective offerings, we were, based on enrollment, there were two teachers that were taken away. So both kind of caused that, the teachers being gone, as well as some feedback from the community, specifically a high school student, we wanted to look at electives. So this is what was offered last year, band 7 or 8, term electives, which got restructured a little bit, drama art, chorus, and fundamentals. Last year, some of the changes in our term electives, the second box, is that we built a weight room at the middle school, and our PE teacher is a strength and conditioning coach. So we're able to offer that to students as one of each term. They rotate through that. So some of that stuff got moved around. And then Fundamentals of Art is a full year art program that feeds into students potentially can get into an honors track at the high school if they're really artistic. Budget request. All right, so my first budget request is a restoration of the science and social studies teacher that was cut last year based on enrollment dropping. And I'm requesting that because we have primarily always functioned as a team building, a team-based model. In research at the middle school, which I'm not going to read out for you because you have it right there, just gives some of what they found through many years of why it's important, if possible, to have a team-based model. I think that the shift from an elementary school to a secondary school it's a big shift at a time when kids are relatively having a lot of changes in who they are and how they think about themselves. And I think that having a smaller school within a school model and allowing those teachers to work together in smaller groups really can be helpful. So that is my first request. And then I just gave you a little. Typically a team model is looking at science, social studies, ELA, and math. And then just to help you understand what it looked like this year is the box. So what I was able to do with the schedule last year, even with the cuts, was kind of do like ELA and math dyads. So I was able to give...
I did, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's distracted by the pretty picture. I got it.
Okay, an ELA and a math dyad. So there was like a semblance of a 7-1 still and a semblance of a 7-2. And then the science and social studies kind of, you could land on either, and then some of those teachers are also teaching in either grade. So that's kind of how I worked it. And obviously we're having a good year, but the idea would be to be able to bring back teams at the middle school. And 8th grade, me and Erica worked really hard on the schedule. We were not able to get that dyad in place with the changes. Like we tried to work it really hard, but we weren't able to get the dyad. So there isn't no kind of ELA math dyad in 8th grade. But in 8th grade, they've also had a year of middle school, so they're a little more aware of like what how the budget works, how the school works, and they don't need potentially as much support in navigating kind of going from 7 to 8. Okay, and now my next request is based on student enrollment data. Would we want to increase our special education teacher increase of 0.6, which is 3 teaching sections? As Ashley talked about, the PACE program, so like moderate special ed, and then students with more significant need, it would be a combination thereof. So what we have done is we've looked really closely with Jess and Erica Swift and the 3 elementary principals on what the needs are of students coming up on IEPs, and then we kind of overlay that into our schedule to see what the need would be. Do we need to increase, decrease, maintain? So kind of a required need would be a 0.6. We need 3 additional sections of special ed. And then I'm requesting kind of as a tier 2, a 0.4 special ed to allow for increased co-teaching opportunities where it would be 2 teachers in the room versus a teacher and a paraprofessional. We are seeing an increasing need for students getting formalized reading support through special ed. So ideally, if these are funded, we would want to get somebody with a specialized reading license. So they're special ed trained, but they have some specialization even within that sub-area. And as Jen so eloquently put it, the RBTs are really important. I also had the RBT at one point. I lost that RBT a little while ago, and then they moved on to Prineville, and now they're at Hoffenmark.
So lucky.
It was great. So it's really helpful. We've seen an increase in behaviors, and behaviors obviously are really challenging for students accessing their education, but also socially. If students are behavior is really atypical, it really makes it hard socially at a time in middle school when it can be really hard socially in the best of times. So we had an increase in functional behavioral assessment, so that's assessments you need to do when you're seeing really significant behaviors and you're trying to really understand what is the function of that and what's the best way to address that to help the kid to be more functional. That has been supported well by the district. So when we've needed those, based on our current staffing models and just supporting with the behaviors coming in as needed, that getting those assessments completed has been taken care of. What I'm requesting is a 0.5 RBT, their behavioral technician, to implement and monitor the plans. As Jen had said, it's tremendously helpful to have more consistency for students, to build in plans and helps teachers understand the plans. So I also found Bridget, not to name call, but like really impactful for how students function. So again, I would really love to be able to have a 0.5 RBT. I think people are recognizing more and more the importance of a role like that in functioning in school. And this is a request that actually got frozen last year. Right, I thought of the coordinator of counseling and behavioral support. So this is a request that moving forward from last year. We talked last year about doing a coordinator of counseling and behavior to have a 7-12 lens, potentially expand on that over time. But that would help with integration across the secondary level. And my last slide is just the cost associated with all those requests.
Start on the end. Katrina, questions?
I'm going to think for a moment. I'm still processing.
Okay. Allison?
Would you keep the same electives? Like, is that?
So, yeah, thank you for that. So, based on, the process, right, we're just starting the process. If the process, if I got some things funded, I would look to see, like, what would be possible with that. If that was the case, I have not completed my program of studies yet, so I would bring that to Ed Sub with my recommendation for approval if that was the case when we get closer into the budget.
Because I know bringing in some of the ones from the high school, like the medical detectives and stuff, planning kind of to tier it up so that the kids.
Yeah, so Model UN moved down to 7th
Yeah.
grade, medical detectives, we were able to bring that into 8th grade, yes. So I think that, I certainly have ideas. I didn't really feel like, I'm putting the budget request for items, but I certainly would want to look at electives. I do think just one idea would be, I do think some kids are very much loving the strength and conditioning, and I would love to be able to expand that opportunity for them potentially, and make that maybe more like a semester elective, and then foil that with something else so that we can really help kids use electives as a way to explore kind of what they want and match them.
And has chorus always,
So chorus,
because it's
yeah,
only
so
4
my hope
students?
was, right, so last year when I restructured the electives, and, you were on Ed Sub, so my hope was that by adding chorus into the actual schedule, that we would have a draw for that. Because clearly, there's a really strong choral program at the high school. We have been, the last few years, been offering chorus during Titan time. And it's been, it's solid. Do you know what I mean? Like 12 to 15 kids, solid. 1 to 3 times a week. And then more preparation during concerts. That is actually currently how our orchestra currently runs too in Titan time. I thought that, with orchestra and strings they refer to as strings in the elementary school, there's a limited number of kids, right? Because there's only so many kids that have taken it. So you kind of know, okay, there could be 9 students going into orchestra if I offered it in the schedule. But with chorus, I felt like it would potentially open it more and we could potentially build from that. Unfortunately, that didn't happen this year. I certainly tried to sell it. I've talked to Gwen about it. I think that although the numbers are really small, I think what happened is we only had 4 students in the class, but then they also layered it into Titan time. So at concerts, we do have more kids. And that was nice because it offered some kids that couldn't take chorus during their schedule. But I think probably letting it ride for another year or 2 and seeing if we could build up some momentum on that and maybe getting some high school kids to come down from the chorus because there's a lot of engagement, right? Like at the high school. I mean, we just saw a presentation today during Titan time on the VPA department that Gwen presented. So I would love to be able to think about how we kind of build on that because I think that there's a great things at the high school that they can.
And I know when you guys do the teams, it's just, you guys have it down, but year after year, the accelerated classes tend to have larger. Would not having a team model allow more equity between that so that it's not like, okay, there can only be 2 sections, like, I don't know, I feel like it's just, there's some math classes that have 13 kids, but then the accelerated has 25 to 29.
Yeah,
so I'm just wondering if there's a way.
I don't think it's
equalize
teams
that
per
somehow?
se. Like what happens with that is like you'll be like, okay, if I do 5 general math sections, this is the average. And if I do 3, so it's that. So there's decisions made based on that. I don't think it's because of teams that it's higher. I think it's because
The scheduling.
typically it's like, okay, this is the pot I have to work with, and I have to divide it a certain way. So you have the real numbers of how many kids have gotten enrolled, right? And if the numbers go up to 34, there's no choice around that, right? Like you have to build up another section, understanding that your general math sections then are going to go up because you just reduced them by a section.
And the Title I supports, those are completely separate. Those kids are, like, they only get that class. They're not.
No, sorry, let me clarify that.
So that's
That is
a
like,
separate,
it's similar
like a learning
to a
center.
math interventionist,
Okay.
so they get math foundation, say, every other day. So they'll have math foundation.
So those
even-
numbers are included in these numbers.
They take regular.
They are
math
also, yeah, so they're still in a math class, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, when I saw it every other day, I was like, ooh, okay.
No, it's a way to
more
build in
sense.
supports, and I've worked
Yeah.
with Melinda this year for the recommendation process to go up
Okay.
to 6th into 7th. So that's a small group benefit that we have that I think is very helpful at the middle school level.
Just wondering, so she answered a lot of she asked a lot of my questions, but the course, so you're saying there's 4 kids, it's combined class of 7th and 8th, and it's 4
Because
kids
I
total?
felt like, yeah, so
Yeah,
I
okay.
felt like, again, trying to build as much, I only have so many sections of everything, right? So I was like, if I build 7, 8, like maybe we'll get more students. And it's great for kids to do a mixed grade level class, right? Because they're going to know
Yeah.
them the whole way up, right?
Right.
Right. The 4 happen to be all 7th graders. So I'm hoping that we build more on that.
Right, we also talked about potentially switching it to a term elective so that it's not a full year. That's some of the shift
Yeah.
that we made at the high school and some of the courses. We went from full year to semester. So just seeing if any of those levers increase enrollment there too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I think just looking at it and then like, again, when we structured the electives last year, I looked at what are available for staffing and then trying to match that. But I do think there could be some tweaks to look at again, and which is one of the reasons why my program of studies hasn't kind of gotten pushed through forth. I wanted to see where we were landing with some of this and then also see where recommendations are coming in for kids. Try to match it. But I would like to see how we build that. I mean, I would also like to build an orchestra more formally into my program. Last year, that was, one of the things we were hoping for, and my, goal this year is to hopefully get that into the schedule. Again, I think there's a stable number there, and I think to build a strings program over time will be important. And then if need be, like we also can continue to offer in Titan time. So maybe like kids get those both opportunities.
And then the other question I had, you mentioned a science and social studies teacher. What do the current class sizes look like? Do you happen to know? For the science and social studies? Like how big are the?
Right, so that's slide 5.
25.
Yeah, so they're 27 right now in 7th grade, and they're 25 in
8th grade.
In eighth grade. Okay.
Yep.
So how many sections did that change, or did they just not change the section?
They won't
amounts?
change. What will change is
The class size, just.
Yeah.
The class, it would just be a smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would change, yeah.
All
The
right.
sections would change. There would be potentially 2 more sections of 7th grade science,
Oh,
and
if
2
it-
more
sorry,
sections of
if
8th
I
grade
got-
science, and
yeah,
a section of an
section would change.
elective or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So
And
it's-
restructuring
Yeah,
of
because the
like,
science
A teacher is 5
yes,
sections.
Yes.
yes, and who may be teaching like
An
Model
elective.
UN or the,
Right, okay, that makes sense.
or the science-based electives or something like that. There's ways to look at that.
All right, thank you.
Trainer on the end?
No, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I've
Come
got.
back, there we go.
Thank you, yeah.
I knew you had questions.
Yeah. One question was around I know for chorus, you mentioned that there was a number of students who did chorus during Titan time and orchestra as well. I'm wondering if, and I don't know if the number fluctuates based on like what days they choose to go to Titan time, but even if we had like an average number, so we know like we have about 10 students that do Titan time chorus. Because I think that could kind of show
Yeah.
the more participation that there is. Because it's great to hear that there are more kids doing it, but I feel like having a number would be helpful for the future.
Yeah, I can get you that. It's a relatively small number, like, there's probably like 3 to 4 more kids that do
Yeah,
it, but.
all good. I just was thinking, I'm like, that would be helpful to know.
But then I'm seeing the kids like practicing for like the musical that's coming up, and like we've got lots of kids that are really musical
Yeah.
and could really,
Yeah.
So I think keeping both in place till we try to build it
Got it.
better, I think would be
It's
important.
a model for elementary schools, like before or after school for chorus, right? Like is that?
Yeah. Not to speak for Gwen, but I think Gwen would love to think about ways to increase chorus size at the elementary too. So I think that I continue to work with her to brainstorm it. Like, she was really happy to have chorus be part of our schedule. And again, I really thought, as I talked to you about the
Yeah.
studies, that would be a draw for kids.
Right, so if
Well,
they're,
seeing the elementary chorus, winter night, there were.
And so part of what
Numbers.
happens, and this happens also with the band students, is like, I do my presentation, it's like a razzmatazz a little bit, right? Because you're trying to get kids excited. You want kids excited. It's like a big move, and it's, it's intimidating in some ways, but you also, you have more choice now, and dot, 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 dot,
You have to
right?
pick.
And then, and then the kids all like get drawn to certain electives, and then caution them, like, respectfully, like, hey, you've been doing violin for 2 years, or whatever, or you've been doing like saxophone for 2 years, like, I really would encourage you to stick with saxophone, and like, so you're trying to get kids to to stay shifted into band, because we don't want those to drop, and I do think it's such an important program we offer. I think that the whole way through, they have it gives so many benefits for them, as well as socially, right, a connection. So sometimes you're trying to get kids not to drop certain things, or like,
Well,
and
that's what
even
I'm
French,
saying.
sometimes like French would be like all the kids that were friends together, and I'm like, if you guys want to know that you are definitely going to have a class together, you would probably look at a class that only offers one section, like French, right? Or like I talk about Quebec, like just because again, like if you want to be with one of your friends and you want to go, and then you're still going to take a language, which is great, then do French. Right?
So I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like, since the elementary model is after school, before school, like, if they're used to that, if there's a way to make it a club instead. And then
Maybe, we can see.
We talked
I
about
know.
that with Gwen a little bit, and I don't think we're not ready to give it up as part of the instructional day yet. For
Yeah.
students,
Yeah.
it has a different connotation when it's a club.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's just,
One other question was just around the .6 teacher for special education with training in multisensory reading. I was doing some of the math, and those kids would have been in kindergarten during 2020, which is like when they're building phonemic awareness and the sounds of letters, so that makes sense that they would likely need more reading support. Did you also see that for some of the 8th graders, or the other group of students that would have been 7th graders this year?
Yeah, this year we have much more reading support through special education than we've had in any of my years at the middle school. And we anticipate based on, again, we're looking back at some of the IEPs coming up, that increase is going to happen the next couple of years. But I think that all of the pieces that you have supported and put in place, and that has been, it is making a real difference. So I think that it's what we need now, but I don't think it's going to be what we need forever.
Yeah, I was just kind of stating like that, it sounds like a moment in time type of thing. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Everybody good?
Joe, do you have any questions?
So
Oh,
I know
thank
you're
you.
talking about.
I just am looking, yeah.
I know you're talking about how the opportunity to have high schoolers, and I know the high school goes down to the 7th grade band students to talk to them about keeping in the transition from band from 7th to 8th grade. But I was wondering if there would be a possibility where you talked about you were like Razzle McDaddle or something.
That's what we call it, the Razzle Dazzle Show.
So like have like orchestra, choir, band students, or like French students to go down to that when kids are transitioning from 6th to 7th grade.
Yeah.
Because that's not really present, if that would be possible or anything like that.
That's a great idea. So we currently, so Gwen Chapman did a presentation today. We've been doing a thing for 8th into 9th.
Yeah.
Which we've called Titan Time Tuesdays. So like every Tuesdays for 5 weeks, we have a different department head come, and they've been bringing students every week to speak to their personal experiences.
Yeah.
Again, just to connect with, I'm a freshman and I'm really friends with juniors and seniors and whatever the case may be. So I do think that making connections for kids with kids that closer to their own age can make a difference. So I am be going to the elementary schools in about 5 or 6 weeks to start my Razzle Dazzle show. And I do think bringing kids in will be important, even if we figure out ways to do that, like at the video level or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Or even if it's just middle schoolers, not high schoolers.
No,
too,
middle
'cause
school,
you're
no,
right.
so I brought middle school, when I did 6th grade, I brought middle schoolers with me.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying that we're doing the 8 to 9, we're making the high schoolers come down 8 to
Yeah.
9, because I want kids to like be excited about, like, it's a pretty incredible district, honestly, like, we offer a lot, and I think that you just want kids and parents to get a good sense of the choices they're gonna have when they go up to high school,
Yeah.
or when they come into the middle school. So I do think even at the middle school, we offer a lot of electives, and I think it's important, and I think it was all the work that Erin and all of you have done.
Thank you.
Everybody good? Mr. Talbot, last but not least.
I have a question.
Oh,
She comprehended. Thank you for your comment, young man. We all talk about.
you have to talk into the microphone, miss, I'm sorry. that's-
We all talk about sports. Everybody knows all the really wonderful sports players out there. We need to do the same thing about your music program.
Yeah,
There are people that have been greatly successful and had phenomenal middle school and high school years. If you bring those people in, that will be really, that's all I can say.
Yep, so
From-
today we had the VPA department, the Visual Performing Arts Department, present to the 8th graders, and they had a video, the production is incredible. Anyway, the production's incredible. It is about a 25-minute presentation. It's already in my weekly to go out next week, and Gwen Chapman is putting it on. But in addition to the students at the high school talking about their own experience, there are multiple alumni that have moved on professionally and just talk about their experience. So I would encourage anyone to take a look at that video, because I said to Gwen today, I've been in this district for 20 years, and when the music program started, it was just starting. Do you know what I mean? And thinking about it today, I said to her, like, it's remarkable where we are as a district and the meaning of that in so many kids' lives and what leadership has done, Gwen and Erin have done in that program. So yeah, watch the video. It is phenomenal.
Get it to the parents, because the parents are a huge influence to those younger people. But also, I wanted clarification. Katrina asked a question about the math. So you have two different sections of math. You have the accelerated math and the regular math.
So we have two different classes. One's an accelerated math, which just moves faster, and one's the
Grade level math.
Grade
Right.
level math, yep.
And so when you were explaining it, did I understand correctly that if you have to put more regular math students into the accelerated math because of the numbers matching?
No, sorry,
You
more
will.
like, I was thinking of it for like a scheduled building section, so like I get 100 kids registered for something, and I'll be like, I have 5 sections, like, it's more like a math dividing up the schedule thing than putting kids in accelerated. Students go into accelerated math if they're recommended by their teachers. If they're not recommended by their teachers, but their parents believe that they would be capable of being in accelerated math, the district has always honored that request of parents, because we don't know who kids are going to be, right? And kids don't even know who they're going to be sometimes. So students are always allowed, if parents reach out to me, to go into a program, and then we monitor to make sure they're in the right place.
Okay, but it's not done on scheduling, it is based on academic achievement.
Oh, it's based
or
on
parental-
recommendations coming in, yes.
Thank you, that's the clarification I want.
Thank you very much. We did a little change of seats here. Mark's on the other side, so you can see the board. You're up, sir.
Thank you very much. I've already messed up. HP devices here. I'm going the wrong way.
You're going the wrong way, yeah.
I can't see that.
You can see. You guys are going through it really fast here.
Thank you very much. It was great. Thank you.
Just hit the button on the side. Stop touching.
I do appreciate you giving me the seat though, Jess. Thank you very much. I had no shot of seeing the screen from that particular angle.
I feel like we need 2 screens, like one for us and then one for them.
Yeah.
I can put that in my budget right now. I can put it in there if you want. It's the time.
I was like, we're on the cover, so it's budget ask.
All right.
All right. I'll stop.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, thank you all for having me and giving me a chance to present some budget requests. The agenda for my presentation is pretty simple. I'm going to talk about some enrollment and class size figures, which does, of course, relate directly to those budget priorities, right? Most of the time, we're asking for these things because of enrollment. And then I'll go through each of those priority requests one at a time with the rationale for each one. Okay, so here is our historical 10-year enrollment data at the high school. We have been discussing this slide now this is my 10th year here, so every year we have been discussing that little bit of a decline. It has seemed to have tailed off or steadied a little bit in the past couple of years, still certainly a decline, but it's been a very modest decline the past couple of years. All right, so this year we have 674 students at the high school. I know it says 673. And we would anticipate that being maybe a little bit lower than that next year, but not drastically lower than that. So then the total enrollment then spills right into those average class sizes. Okay, they have been holding pretty steady there. And those are great numbers, right? Those are numbers that certainly have a correlation to student achievement, and I certainly appreciate those committee support in keeping those class sizes where they are. As you'll notice, as I do every year, I tease out the world languages by language. Spanish is by far the highest enrolled language. However, as Donna pointed out, the plan is working for the French. Right, and as this committee knows well, when we no longer offered Latin at the middle school, and we committed to building up the French program, in large part by having Civisa Day go down there and teach. That's working, and we knew that the fruits of that labor were going to be a few years down the road, and here we are, right? We are a few years down the road. Next year, I am anticipating those French numbers to be higher than what they are right now. All right, and again, that's just an average class size, but the work is paying off. It's happening. All right, and I'm glad Donna, her numbers showed you that, so you can see what we've been talking about. And so then here are my priorities or my requests then for FY '27. As Donna already mentioned, I'm once again asking for a director of counseling, and that is a district-wide position. I know Donna talked about being 7 to 12, and she's absolutely correct on that. But certainly, the counseling staff in the K through 6 world would benefit from that as well, I would think. And I'll talk about more in-depth the rationale behind that, but streamlining and have one person overseeing the counseling staff in our district, I think would just have huge dividends for all of our students, rather than, having various people try to oversee it right now. And again, that was on the slide of last year as well. I also feel as though it's a prayer for high school to add a full-time special education teacher. That's a common refrain. Every building in the district has asked for something along those lines. And I'll talk about it in much more depth coming up, but again, the needs of our students, the acute caseloads of our special education students are growing. They're not reducing, they're growing. Directly tied to that is the additional instructional paraprofessional that I am requesting. That position was reduced last year, and I'll talk all about I think the impact of that reduction and why we need to restore it. I'm asking for a full-time custodian at the high school, and then this will sound familiar to all of you, I know that, but some additional funding for our extracurricular activity fund. I was very thankful to receive the $5,000 increase from last year's budget from the committee, but here I am again with my handout asking for additional, monies for that. And so if you look at those three on the priority charts, they are related. Those first three are intertwined, and so that as I try to justify, right, the rationale for the request, you'll see that there is a little bit of overlap in those three positions, okay? But speaking specifically now to the director of counseling position, and I know I'm kind of just reinforcing what Donna has already said, we had a director of guidance that was reduced in the 2017-18 school year, and even after that, the year after that, we reduced the guidance counselor. A lot of that was enrollment driven, no doubt about that, okay? That's not necessarily the issue. But since that time, right, that's two bodies out of that department, a department head or a supervisor and a counselor. The increases in the academic pressures on our students have increased in the past 10 years significantly. I think we all know that. And so along with those pressures comes the social emotional learning needs. As I mentioned on the slide here, that the needs of our students, the caseloads aren't necessarily bigger for our guidance counselors, but the demands and the needs and what our students need from them, that has grown. It's a much more challenging job. We have 3 guidance counselors who are absolutely capable of doing it. They do a darn good job. They know what they're doing. But the counseling staff, including the adjustment counselors, are just asking for a stable supervisory influence in their suite. So they're not running across the building trying to find me or trying to find Dave or Kristen, because we're just not always available, right? And I think you can understand how it just makes sense, right? Our other departments, our academic departments have a supervisor who's right there, who's right in the same corridor as them in many cases, easy access, easy support, and the message that delivered to the department is consistent and uniform because it's from one person every day, all day. And the folks in that department, I think, need that, and I think I'm speaking for the K through 12 staff when I say that.
Can I ask a quick question? Can
Yes.
you give us an overview of what is a guidance counselor, what their role is, and what the adjustment social worker is? Just
Sure.
in case people don't know what they do
Sure.
different.
So, I mean, I don't want to minimize the guidance counselors by saying that they're the academic liaison. Their primary focus is academics and counseling students through their academic needs in a 4-year program of study. That job has developed, though, into providing some social emotional support as well. It's a big part of what they do every day. Our social workers, our adjustment counselors do really drill down with the social and emotional learning piece. They meet with kids in individual counseling sessions. Academics certainly come up as a part of that conversation, but we're primarily talking about, emotions here, right? The students' social and emotional well-being in those conversations. So
Because
there's,
guidance counselors aren't connected to IEPs the way the adjustment counselors are.
Well,
Or can they be?
I would say that they are. Our guidance counselors are involved in all those team meetings. They're an important member of the student's team. And so every progress meeting, every annual review, every 3-year review, every initial evaluation, the guidance counselors are involved in that. The guidance counselors help communicate with staff about how to deliver the plan that's been created in those meetings. So they are involved in that very heavily. Our adjustment counselors are as well, because many of our students are on a plan because of their social and emotional learning deficits. But the adjustment counselors also work with students who aren't on a plan, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. So there's there's overlap in those roles for sure, but there are some, obviously, some drastic differences as well.
I just had another quick question around the instructional paraprofessional. Is that, I know it says in the notes, like, per their educational plans, is that for students with IEPs for the instructional paraprofessional, or is that
Yes.
this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a special ed driven.
But that's a
Correct.
special
Yep.
ed driven one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's right.
Thanks for that clarification. Another thing I wanted to mention, just with the director of counseling, is I think the world has also changed a lot in terms of just the general stresses and technology and how it's changed over time. So I am sure that that's also complicated students' social and emotional needs, in addition to
Yeah.
the increased demands of academics.
Sorry, boss. I'm a mile away from that screen. I'm sorry. You are correct. In the next slide that I wanted to talk about, it mentions kind of the need for programming and delivering that programming and the technology, the role technology plays there, college and career planning and the role technology plays there, the small group seminars that our counselors run throughout the course of the year. Sorry.
Right, because another
It's my
thing
own fault.
I've been thinking about is just how the job market is changing and how it's because things are changing so quickly, right? Like that probably increases the demands for the guidance department as well.
Sure, no doubt, absolutely. So, as I said before, that slide was really about the director of counseling. These slides still talk about the justification for the request of a director of counseling, but also the special education teacher and the instructional paraprofessional that's a part of this presentation. Okay, and so 30% of our student body are on some sort of a plan, 30%. Of that 30%, 19 of them are on an IEP. 125 students in our school are on an IEP, and there's the breakdown by grade. And as I justify this request, you can see that the 9th graders and the 10th graders, there's more of them that are on plans that have been historically, right? And then here come the 8th graders, projected 8th graders with 37 students on a plan. We're graduating 26 seniors. So right there, we're already plus 11 next year, kids coming in on a plan, theoretically. Okay? And as each principal has already indicated, during the course of the year, students' needs shift. That's what it would be on September 1. But there's no telling what it looks like on February 1 as the year progresses and students' challenges increase and their needs are not being met. Likewise, 11% of our students are on a 504 plan. And again, you can see the number of freshmen, in particular, this year's freshman class are on a 504 plan and what's projected to come up next year from the 8th grade. And the number of seniors who are leaving. All right, so we're plus about 14, well, we're plus about 9 there All right, so the increase in the needs of our students at the most fundamental level is increasing from before the school even starts. All right, and then we also have a smaller number of students in years past who are our English language learners. That number has decreased actually from last year, and it looks like it's projected to hold steady next year. It's projected. And so then you take into consideration what we talked about earlier with the social workers, all right, our adjustment counselors. There are 135 students who receive some sort of counseling through our 2 social workers. It's 30%, 20% of our student body. Now, not all of them are on a plan, as I said earlier, right? Some of those sessions are required through the IEP process, but many of them are not. There are students who just kind of percolate during the course of the year, and our adjustment counselors work them into their schedules, and they meet with them on either an as-needed basis, or some of them, they have more frequent check-ins with them because they know they need it. That number's not going down, right, is my point. And that's why I think this now really speaks more to the director of counseling, all right?
It's kind of interesting, like our enrollment's going down, but this number's going up,
The stresses that our students are experiencing are going up for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. Our Compass program has used this, I gave this information to Erin back in early February, so that number's probably gone up a little bit, but 101 students have used our Compass program in some capacity this year. Some of them certainly for physical ailments. They're returning from mono or concussion, all right? And those are the ones that we can kind of patch up and then move them along, certainly. But our tier 2 and tier 3 Compass students, those are students who are struggling with social and emotional needs. There's 30 more students that have accessed that program this year than last year, 30 more. Okay, and there are 16 right now who are tier 3 students. Those are students who have access to Compass at any time throughout the course of the day, throughout the course of the school year, because their needs just have shown us that they need that kind of support, so that they can go there in the morning for a check-in, stay there until they get regulated, and then go about their day. And then if they have a hiccup at 10:30 in the morning, they can go back to Compass, get regulated, get some support there, and head back to class. All right, we have 16 students right now currently using the program for that purpose. All right, I would also envision, if we were to be awarded the Director of Counseling, the ARC program, to fall under that umbrella. The Academic Resource Center is for general education students that are not on plans. Maybe 504s, but even a student not in a plan, but who is experiencing difficulty in the curriculum, we support those students as well. All right, as of right now, 33 students have used that program in some capacity this year. So the need for oversight of our supports is there. I guess that's what I'm trying to demonstrate with these slides. And so that also, I'll transition then to a more specific rationale for the special ed teacher. Again, some of those slides certainly encompass that, but I'm really going to drill down specifically as to why I feel we need another special education teacher. Now, we have 6 full-time inclusion special education teachers. Each one of them can teach 5 classes. So that's where you get those 30 sections, okay? We have 30 sections of special education teaching happening in our building. And this grid shows that, okay? We have 13 learning centers. Of those 30, 13 are learning centers, 4 reading classes, 8 are co-taught inclusion classes, and 5 of them are sub-separate classes. Those are small group settings. We pull students out of there in a more restrictive environment because their learning needs dictate that we do so. And that's how we get those 30 sections. Now, what I am anticipating is that there's going to be an increased need or a need to add more learning centers, more co-taught classes, and more sub-separate classes. I do not anticipate an increase in reading sections. That could change, but I don't anticipate that. Just the mere fact of the increase in students coming here on plans, I think justifies the increase in learning center courses. But what else is driving that, and I'll explain this on the next slide, is the new competency determination requirements, all right, as a pathway to a high school diploma, right? Gone is the MCAS, and I don't like this word, but the barrier that it created for some of our students, that's gone, all right? So the pathway to diploma has changed, and that's driving this need, okay? Specifically, students in our PACE program, that's our sub-separate program for special education for severely disabled learning students. More of those students now will be attempting to get a diploma, even if it means staying till age 22. And if more students will be pursuing that avenue, then we're going to need to increase special education personnel in school. And I'll explain what I mean by that right now. So again, I've just navigated over, and those same numbers are there, right? That's what we currently have here for those 30 sections, okay? I've already talked about the fact that we're going to need more learning centers, 13 learning centers next year. Will not do it for us at the high school. We'll need more than that. We also are going to need to offer more co-taught sections. So as a reminder, we co-teach the core four, English, math, social studies, and science, in the 9th and 10th grade. So that's how you get those 8 sections of co-taught classes, right? There's 2 English classes, 2 math, 2 science, and 2 social studies for the 9th and 10th graders. However, what's happening here is, and this has always been the case, but the math and the science pathways have divergent sequences. And so it's creating an additional need for co-taught classes. So what I mean by that specifically, take a look at grade 9 math, for instance. Our freshmen, the students that need support primarily are either in AIM 1 or Algebra 1. Okay, our honors freshman class, honors geometry, there are not a lot of kids that require support there, all right? We co-teach the AIM 1 class right now, but we are seeing a need where students in Algebra 2 who have the right to an education in the least restrictive environment, and going down to AIM 1 to get co-taught services, that's a more restrictive environment, right? Do we need to consider co-teaching Algebra 1? Likewise, the 10th grade math also has a divergent pathway. Our 10th graders that usually require services are either in AIM 2 or geometry. We don't co-teach geometry, okay? But is there going to be a need to do so? Certainly there's going to be a need to support more of those classes. And that kind of ties into the instructional paraprofessional that I'm requesting. For sure, this is not a prediction. A certainty is that the grade 10 science scope and sequence has 2 offerings for our sophomores. They can either be in physical science or chemistry. And if they're not in chemistry as a sophomore because they take physical science, they take chemistry as a junior. And so we have a need next year, undeniable, unequivocal need next year to co-teach biology, physical science, and chemistry. So that's 3 science courses, not 2. All right, so that really falls into the need category, not a want category. Okay? Likewise, as I mentioned, the competency determination is allowing students to then come out of the PACE program, get into inclusion classes, but in order to do that, we're going to have to support those classes, okay? So they can still, get their free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. So for sure, not a prediction, a fact, we are going to have to co-teach for the first time ever U.S. History 2 next year. That's the junior social studies, all right? So that increase is coming, all right? And it's going to continue to come, all right, as our students in the PACE program matriculate through their time here at the high school in pursuit of a diploma. So look what happens to those numbers then on the screen based on what I know to be a fact and what I'm predicting, all right? We now have a need for 35 sections of special education teaching at the high school, which is 7 FTE. That's another full-time teaching equivalent.
And this is a special education teacher or a para?
Nope, this is a special education teacher, okay? That's a good question. It's a nice segue because let's talk about the para, all right?
Speaking of which.
We will absolutely need the para as well. Currently, second bullet down there, our district, or our school rather, has 4 inclusion paras. And they each support 7 courses, okay? So that's a room for 28 supported classes, okay? Last year, we had more than that. We reduced a para last year. This year, currently, despite that reduction, we are supporting 31 classes. We have enough to support 28, and we're supporting 31. And so how are you doing that? Well, we are taking office paraprofessionals from the main office, from the special education office, and from Compass to support those other 3 classes. And so obviously, when you do that, you are really limiting the efficiency of those 3 positions, right? They were hired to do a certain job for a reason, okay? And they are out of those positions for an hour a day, every day, to support those 3 classes, okay? We could certainly support more than 31 classes. We have some classes that are high in numbers of students that need support, okay? Some biology classes, some math classes. If we had another instructional para, we could easily support 35 sections this year. The caseload this year certainly would warrant that. But without any question, next year, for school year 26-27, we are anticipating 35 supported sections, so that we would need to restore that instructional paraprofessional. Right? We take Pamparella, that's our special education clerical para. If you take her out of that special education office, think about all the paperwork that's involved in special education, all the scheduling of meetings. We're just not as efficient or effective with her not in that office every day, all day.
And just to clarify, with those positions, those would be for students with IEPs?
Correct.
So it would be more required, it's a need.
That's correct.
Versus
That's
a
right.
want.
Those are special education paraprofessionals, IEP required services, yes. Right. Good? Okay. I'm also requesting a full-time custodian. Currently, this year, we are staffed by 4 full-time custodians. There's 1 day custodian and 3 night custodians. Last year, we were staffed in totality by 5 custodial positions, the 4 that I'm currently mentioned, and then we had 2 half-time custodians. It was a position, one of those positions was half-time custodian, half-time bus driver, and the other was half-time custodian, half-time wastewater treatment. Those positions have either been eliminated or moved so that they're no longer at the high school. Okay, so we're playing a man down on our custodial staff, okay? And so I guess what I'm asking for is just to restore that position, because we feel it, all right? The crew feels the loss of those 2 half-time positions, which equal 1 full-time position. All right, we have 4 custodians, the other buildings all have 3. And I know I have 1 more, and so therefore, what are you complaining about? But the high school is the biggest building. It's the busiest building in terms of after-school time. I think the responsibilities there are just more. This week alone, there's someone in our building, or there's something going on in our building every night of substance, right? Last night, we had program studies night. Tonight, we have girls' basketball. Tomorrow is sports night for Brian Phillips. What's that?
Spring sports night was canceled. It's one of the communications.
Oh, I didn't get that part. Well, he would have had that, right?
So the girls' hockey game.
And, yeah, because we've got other things going on, right? Thursday night is what? What's Thursday night? Something is happening Thursday night. Yes, the college play night. Thank you very much. So, the evening custodians in particular are maxed out. The 3 evening custodians, they're maxed out. They missed that halftime body there because there's so much going on. And then finally, just a similar slide to last year where I explained the rationale for the additional, now why did that go backwards? There we go. The additional extracurricular activity. We have a high number of extracurricular positions that are done by volunteer staff members. This year, we were able to run unified team sports because of the increase that was provided last year. I'm thankful for that. But as you can see there's a healthy number of clubs that the advisor's doing it for no pay. And additionally, the cost of transportation is real, right? And every time that the mock trial team, for instance, the better that they do, the more bus trips that they need, and the more money that we need to pay for that. The same thing is true of the math team. All of these teams that are competing as part of their extracurricular activity, there's just additional costs besides the cost of the advisor that goes along with that. And so I'm asking for an increase there so we can provide more for the people and the students.
Right, and also keep in mind that our collective bargaining agreement that we just ratified also says that in the second year, if a club continues to run, we have to pay the advisor. That's a new change for us.
Got it.
Yeah, right now, it's not a good job that I throw on Dave Ritz's lap. He's the co-curricular coordinator, and he decides really what clubs are going to get the paid stipend and which ones are not. And he does that based on the end of the year reports, right, and everything else, and how many kids are involved, and where's our bang for our buck. And that doesn't mean that the photo club is not an important club we do here, right? And every year, he's getting beat up by people because, you know, he's going to make that choice. The pot of money is the pot of money. It's not growing, you know, so I'm just asking for that one more time.
Truly, they spend a lot of extra time in school for these kids.
Right.
And it's a shame that they can't be compensated for it, so.
Right. Yet.
And that 35,000 would cover that.
That's a made-up
It would
number,
certainly help, yeah. I was
that's
going to ask
not-
for 50, but I was being reasonable.
That's not the transportation side either.
It's not.
Right, that's just.
It would just be in the
bid
ECA
by-
fund, and I could pull out of that, right, exactly, with discretion, correct. Yep. And that's
Trina,
that.
questions?
Not right now, but maybe in a minute.
Okay. Allison?
I didn't know if Joe wanted to talk about mock trial at all.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, though I'm in mock trial, multicultural club, and trial music honor society from this list, and those advisors put in so much work, and it's a shame that they're not getting paid. It's just volunteer, and they care so much about it. But for example, Mr. Schumann with mock trial, I think, like, over break, he had at least 2 Zoom meetings a day with every single person, and he writes all of our direct exams, cross exams, openings. He coaches us through. He puts in so much work, and it's sad that he doesn't get paid. So I really think that's a big thing. Because obviously he does it for the love of the game. Like,
No doubt. He would do it for free, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
He does, but.
Very
yeah.
passionate. That's helpful,
Yeah.
Joe.
He has some
Thank you.
passion for him, no doubt,
Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, I might as well tell you right now, he would not be eligible for the stipend.
I was just gonna
It
say.
is a volunteer position. That's how it's written in, right? We pay the advisor, and you need a volunteer attorney to help, right? So, but I'll tell him you went to the bathroom, though, absolutely.
So you guys went to Worcester this Sunday.
Yeah.
Very kind of late notice because you guys
Yeah, it was
won
a scramble to get the bus, but we were able to get
It
which
all
was
came
awesome.
together, that's right, yeah. Yeah, you guys kept winning, you know,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, you know, yeah.
I was ready to drive my bus there.
Just wanted to ask you, so what happened to the wastewater? Didn't we have?
So,
like,
yeah,
one
nothing
person-
happened to the custodians. Those positions exist in our budget, they're just not filled. So wastewater treatment is a position that requires a level 5 water treatment certification. We don't have anybody on staff that currently has that license, so we've been unable to fill the position. We have been working with Weston and Sampson, which is an engineering firm locally, that can come in and do the treatment for that. So we continue to post for wastewater treatment operator, but there is not somebody qualified that has applied yet. And as far as the half bus driver, half custodian, Diane Elliott did retire just right before February break, so that position is still in our budget. It's just posted right now for filling, so.
No, that makes sense. Just wondering how we were handling the wastewater, 'cause I knew.
That's not a license.
We're trying
You're
our
not
best.
trying to get that license right now?
No, it's really, that one's a tough one.
Just check.
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
Katrina? Good.
Thanks.
Back to the other Katrina?
No questions. I think it's clear kind of where the needs are going, and it's helpful to know where some of the things are, especially with the competency determination. And just to name, like, those students who go to 22, that's part of their right with special education, based on their needs. So not every student can do that, but
That's right.
it is their right if they want to continue to 22.
Do you expect to need that in the world language as well? Like some of the paras would, because that's now a requirement as well, like the visual arts and.
Yeah.
So you're talking about supporting
Yeah.
world language classes?
Yeah.
That
make
would
it
be something that
accessible.
we're going to have to absolutely.
Yeah, because
That's a good
I mean,
cover,
because
yeah.
you'd have it, it's already this year, the freshman, right?
It is.
And,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so that's just going to continue to grow over the years too with, maybe they want to keep going and take Spanish 4.
That's right. That's right.
So just one last final question about the wastewater treatment, I know.
You're really enjoying that, yes?
I know. Are we, so we're contracting it out, does it end up costing a lot more to contract it
No,
out?
so the way that our treatment plan is set up, as I said, you have to have a level 5 license. We have not had somebody in place with a level 5 license for the past 14 years. We've had a junior operator and then been fortunate enough to have John Murphy, who used to be the wastewater treatment operator at Silver Lake, who retired. He worked for us 3 hours a day. So we were paying a full-time custodian and somebody 3 hours a day. So the cost for a firm to do it is well within that number.
Okay.
Nice.
That was really nice.
Any other questions for anyone?
Jill,
good.
do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
There'll be the young lady here again, but,
Try go again. Still Jean Comfort, still at 29 Adams. I read consistently about the excessive cost of transportation to transport outside of the district. I don't see anything in any of the budgets here that we talk about transportation
Yep, so that will be in the
costs.
student services presentation. Special ed transportation falls under student services.
And that would be down the road.
Yep, so the next time it's visual performing arts, technology, facilities and athletics, and then we'll do student services, and then we'll do teaching and learning.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're just starting tonight.
There
Thank
was
you.
also the social emotional program as well, which would eventually reduce out-of-district costs, so it was kind of included.
well, thank you all. I don't know if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, that's entirely up to
Mark
you
has to
guys.
stay, but the rest of you all can go.
Oh, Mark has to stay, sorry. You get to hang out. You can keep the seat if you want. It's up to you guys if you want to switch back. That's fine. But again, thank you all. We appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, consideration for approval, updated Quebec City trip.
Yep, so in your packet, you have just an updated form from our World Languages Department. When you conceptually approved this trip, it was just for the middle school, but we did not have enough interested students and families to run the trip, so we have, are seeking to open the trip to 7th through 12th grade, which is how it ran last year and the year before.
We had no issues at all?
Nope.
Everything went fine?
Middle school kids room with middle school kids, and high school kids room with high school kids. We don't overlap them.
There's only 2 chaperones.
There's 20 to 22 students and 2 chaperones, yes.
Okay. Do we take this in the form of a motion?
You just need to approve it? Yep. Consideration for approval.
I will make a motion to approve the updated Quebec City trip.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? 5-0, Natalie.
Back in July, you approved a trip to Ireland for conceptual approval. We have 5 students that are were interested in going on that trip. Unfortunately, 5 students was not enough for the tour company to run that trip. So they offered us 2 alternatives to partner with other schools on trips that were already planned and running. And our group chose a trip itinerary that includes Brussels, Amsterdam, and Paris. So that itinerary is included in the back of your packet, but it is just a change in location as opposed to not having the students go at all.
Okay, to make sure I hear this right, we'd be combining with other schools?
So generally, when it's a tour like this, there's other people that are doing the same thing, right? Because it goes over April vacation. So this tour company, Explorica, is not running an Ireland tour. There was not enough interest across all schools, not just Pembroke High School. So
Yep.
one of the tours that they're offering is Amsterdam, Brussels, and Paris, and that our group of 5 families that had originally committed to Ireland selected this alternative tour package.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated Ireland trip.
So moved.
Okay, I've got a first, I've got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? We'll go 5-0, Natalie.
Next up is subcommittee updates. The vocational planning committee met a couple weeks ago, and we talked about really kind of building out a calendar for the spring on opportunities for folks to ask questions, having another during the day presentation of the partner with the Council on Aging. I can see on the select board agenda for tomorrow night that there's a discussion of this. Nobody has reached out or invited any of us to that discussion, so But we did talk at our meeting about offering to go to advisory and answer questions there too. So there'll be a couple of opportunities over the next 6 to 8 weeks where we'll be offering our informational sessions as well as appearing in front of other boards to answer questions as we lead up to town meeting in May.
We're also going to do a school committee, maybe before a school committee meeting like we did the last time.
Yes, and have local scene tape it so that it's out there for people to be able to see.
Yeah, and when, are we doing that this month? Right.
I think we were talking about doing it in April, at one of the April meetings.
Okay.
Do we have firm wording contract or
So the,
numbers and like the firm, or what it's called, it's not contract, but the.
so the numbers for South Shore Tech are as firm as I feel like they're gonna get. So did you feel like that was the take
Yes,
from
yeah.
Tom Mickey? So we have a number to work with. Obviously, there's still some moving parts with Marshfield and a couple of other communities that still have to kind of work through how they're funding the building project. But that is because the member community vote to move the project forward passed, you are responsible for your share of it. So the numbers are the numbers. We have a good idea from Tom. I think last time we met, Bill was going to just kind of refigure some of the interest because that has shifted a little bit, and then talk about the difference between level principal and level payment, so that we can explain that to the voters going into town meeting.
And just, so there's going to be a vote on just numbers, like 2 different votes, or there's 3 votes? How many articles do we have for the VOTEC?
So there's 2 articles. There's an article for a debt exclusion override for the building, and there's an article for an operational override to fund the cost of sending students there.
Right, okay.
And I think we also talked about doing a calculator of some kind, but that's
Correct.
sponsored by us,
Yeah.
not anybody, so that it's, you know.
So you're looking at April for that?
We're looking at April to present the numbers to you all, have it taped in so it's out there, and then we'll spend the next 4 weeks after that kind of as a traveling circus if needed to bring it wherever, so that folks can have ample opportunity to ask questions ahead of town meeting.
And kind of in the VOTEC plan or concept here, how many kids got into VOTECs this year? 8th grade?
So it's
Do you
still
know?
going.
We don't know that number?
Yep.
Okay. Because from what I've heard from families, at least at the Aggie, it's not good.
So again, our enrollment at Norfolk Aggie has fluctuated. That has nothing to do with
Yeah, no, I know
vocational.
it's separate. It's just the whole, this is still the
I think we had
district.
9 students apply. I think I've seen 4 acceptances. They're all matches there at the Aggie, so they generally come to the wait lists for those. We have a few students that are on wait lists at Bristol Plymouth also.
Yeah, because there's a lot, this is the first year with the lottery, so.
Correct.
I think it's changed the dynamics.
A little bit, yep.
And some of them can be the same kid. I believe I know one student who is accepted at one and waiting listed at the
Yeah.
other, right, if that makes sense?
Yep, there's separate lotteries for each one.
Yeah, just to be clear. Just to cover my professional tale here, we were supposed to say this meeting is being recorded, and if you have any questions, scinfo@pembrokek12.org. So I should have put that out at the beginning, I apologize.
And
So-
one more VOTEC question, just to make it clear. So we would have an allotted amount that our students would be applying for, an amount.
Yeah,
within
so
the
our
lottery.
22 seats, those are our seats.
Yeah.
Our lottery would be for those 22 seats.
Yeah.
And then any extras that are left from other towns, we would get a proportional share. So each community would get 1 more or 2 more, depending upon whether Cohasset or Situate don't use all of their seats.
Okay.
Although the first year.
The first year, it's
10
just 10
Yeah.
students while they're in the old building, and then it ramps up to 22 for the following year when the new building opens.
And that's the class of 31?
It's our current 7th graders, so yes, the class of 31.
Yeah, years away.
So there'd be 10 of them.
There'd be 10 of them, and then the following year, there'd be 22, 21, 22, 21.
Okay. Thank you.
We good? Next.
Policy Subcommittee met, again, with February break and a week of a blizzard. It feels like it was a lifetime ago, but Policy Sub met to take a look at our policy, our Series B policies in regards to agenda and public comment. I do want to clarify, at our last meeting, we did have some extensive public comment And there were some follow-up questions from members of the audience as well as members of the committee in regards to how public comment is managed and whether or not policy sub should take a look at some of those current policies and see if adjustments were needed. I want to remind folks that it is the purview of the chair of the school committee on any given day how public comment is run. It is great for us to have a format that's printed in our policy, but it is the purview of the chair to allow people to speak or not speak, depending upon the flow of the meeting. So we did take a look at each of those policies. I think at our last meeting, we had a few folks that our current policy as well as our revised policy require that you tell us your address when you stand up. It doesn't necessarily saying that you're a public figure or that you live in Pembroke, somewhere in Pembroke. Our policy requires your address. And so there were a few folks that may have misrepresented that they were from Pembroke at the last meeting. So I do want to clarify that our current policy requires your address, as does the revisions that we're proposing. So the first policy that we have a couple of updates to is policy BEDB, agenda format. So we did go through and just update. There's a few places where it says citizen, and that those areas in particular were changed to resident. It is the purview of the school committee to limit public comment to residents of the town of Pembroke. Again, well within the purview of the chair at any given meeting. So in BEDB, the only updates are from changing citizen to resident and then just asking that people submit their request in writing through the superintendent as opposed to just request through the superintendent.
And this is to put something on the agenda?
Correct.
And can we say Pembroke resident instead of just resident? Is there a reason?
So it's your Pembroke School Committee policy. We don't specify the town in any place else in the.
Resident just
Would
means
it
Pembroke
hurt to
resident.
add it?
I then would suggest you go back and add it
Have
in
to add
every
everywhere.
single place in the policy
Residents already
manual.
defined.
But it's
the other
just these,
policies.
there's,
They're
So,
resident
but we
is
don't
used
say
other
Pembroke
places.
student, we don't say, so we don't use a qualifier on any of them. Happy to go back and do that, or if you feel that anything in Series B should say Pembroke, it just needs to be consistent, so.
yeah, I agree.
So in BED.
Well, because this one
H, we
says
have-
Pembroke resident. You guys added it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
specifically added.
Happy
it.
to add the word
I
Pembroke
mean, I
in
guess
all of
it's whether,
B.
as a committee,
I think it's implied,
is
but-
there a difference between saying a resident of, I think it should say Pembroke resident.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Pembroke resident makes
We
sense.
will
for
add
that.
it to everything in Series B.
I mean, and it's still up to the chair to,
Correct.
Yeah, you can always still
Yeah.
have someone who's not a Pembroke resident speak if the
correct.
chair decides.
But BEDB is just about agenda format, so
Yeah.
how to request something be placed on the agenda.
Do you have to take this as a vote? or
It's a
do we-
first read, so you're taking it as a vote, yep.
All right, can I get a motion on revised policy BEDB, agenda format?
So moved.
second.
I got a first, I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0, Natalie.
The next policy is policy BEDH, and that is your policy on public comment at school committee meetings. So policy submet, taking into consideration some of the feedback that we've received at our last meeting, as well as in email communications following that meeting, and to just clarify that, yes, we do have public comment. It is reserved at the beginning of the meeting. There's 15 minutes for it. It's reserved for Pembroke residents, and we just wanted to clarify that there are times that there are parents or guardians of Pembroke students who are not necessarily currently residing in the town. They're also open to speak at public comment. And if there's additional time in that time slot, or if the chair chooses to extend the timeline associated with public comment, that, again, he or she may choose to open it up to non-Pembroke residents. And that topics that are discussed during public comment must be items that fall under the school committee's purview. So again, originally the language had said items solely listed on the school committee agenda for that evening, but I think it's fair as long as whatever the topic is something that the school committee can even weigh in on, that it not necessarily be limited to the agenda.
But as long as it's within our purview.
Correct. It's just clarifying under number 3, there has been a few cases in the past couple of years in regards to the content of a person's public comment. And so again, just wanting to make sure, I think a couple of samples said respectful or whatnot, but we just wanted to define that comments that are repetitive, exceed the time limit, are disruptive, unrelated, profane, or violate FERPA are examples of comments which would be deemed inappropriate by the chair. So just spelling it out for everybody. We talked about who's going to be keeping the time when we have extensive public comment, and it was decided that it would be myself or my designee, as the 5 of you should be, really undivided attention to who's speaking and not worrying about the time. I will go back and make the edit about Pembroke with the word resident on each of them. I think that was.
So I have a question. Is my understanding, and also from listening to the last select board member, I don't know, can we put profane in here? Because I think that is there was been some like Supreme Court cases, like Massachusetts state saying that you can't limit even if somebody's saying something that's.
You can, if somebody's, standing up and dropping a whole bunch of swears, David can.
Okay.
We
stop
looked
them.
at those cases
Yes.
as well during
So
this process.
fits
Yes.
within
Yeah,
that.
we looked
Okay.
at what can and can't happen based on specific cases.
Okay.
You can get up and tell the world that all kinds of things about you or about me or about Mary Beth. We can't necessarily stop that, but if you're swearing and it's disruptive in that nature, we can.
And then I haven't seen the sheet when people fill out, does it have a spot for their address?
We are going to update it to say
Okay,
address.
so it'll have their name.
So that Jane won't have to tell us every
So
time.
it'll be like
We'll
a
know.
name, address, topic? kind of
Topic to
thing?
speak upon,
Okay.
yes.
And would that be added to our policy? Is that
Just
like
the sign-in sheet is not part of your
But
policy.
but doesn't need as,
Nope.
like R or whatever it
Nope.
is? Okay.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, I'll take a motion to revise policy BEDH, public comment at school committee meetings.
So moved.
A second.
I got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0, Natalie.
And then policy BEE just has 2 instances of the word residence, and I will add the word Pembroke for the sake of it.
Erin, on this one, it says that they have 3 minutes to have
Yeah,
their
it should be
comment.
2.
Okay, I
I
just
just
want to make
noticed
sure.
that, yeah.
All right, that's the only thing I saw.
Nice catch, thank you.
And just for context for how we looked at different policies, we did look at a number of other school districts. It was upwards of like 40 other school districts, and what they did for public comment, and if they required residency, and if they limited it to the agenda, and basically used that information to help guide the changes that we're proposing.
And public comment is not required on any agenda. I've received a few emails about open meeting law and open meeting law violations. The open meeting law entitles you the right to witness the meeting in public. It does not entitle you the right to speak at the meeting. I think this committee is pretty good, as evidenced by tonight. We want to hear what people have to say. That's never been a concern of ours, but there is no requirement that public comment appear on agendas, so.
And we don't have many public hearings.
So we have 2
limited,
public hearings each year. By law, we have to have a public hearing on school choice and a public hearing on the budget. There are other instances where you could have a public hearing. I would argue if you have a singular agenda item, that in itself lends itself to a public hearing.
Yep.
But
I
we
just
don't
wanted
have a lot
to
of
say
those.
that, but it's different.
Correct.
This isn't, today is not a public hearing.
No,
Right.
it's posted as such, public hearing.
Yeah.
All right, everybody good on this? Okay, I will take a motion to revise policy BEE, procedures for conducting public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
I'll get a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0, Natalie.
And there's one other thing that we talked about at Policy Sub. Policy Sub is not moving any recommendations forward to alter our current policy IKFB-R, graduation dress. But we did have a pretty extensive conversation about cords and sashes and really recognizing the achievements of our student body, when that happens, how it happens. I think that the Student Advisory Council, as well as Joe, came up with a lot of great ideas. I know that Mark picked up on a couple of them, and our commitment to community service here is definitely something that we should be identifying in our graduation program for students, because we do have a whole lot of students that go well beyond the 40 hours of required community service. I know that Mark, in working with the senior class, has really jazzed up what the graduation outfit looks like moving forward. So it's no longer a plain blue gown. There's a stole that every student will be wearing as well, so everyone will have something around their neck. And I think, I don't know, want to speak for Sue and Katrina, but we did talk a lot about the equity associated with the chords, how we make sure that the academic achievement piece is really what the focus is, and how we keep the focus of the day on the cumulative achievement of graduating from Pembroke High School. So,
So, and then in addition to that, I think it's important that everybody understands that any national academic organization can apply for a
right.
cord.
So the way our policy works, any nationally recognized honor society could give chords for Pembroke High School. There is a process spelled out through the policy for approval through MARC. Any national honor society has an academic component to it as well. And we talked at the subcommittee meeting, there is a biology honor society, there's a French honor society, there's pretty much for every discipline, there is a national honor society for that discipline. And so we would love to have more chapters of those at Pembroke High School, and that's really a function of the advisor and student interest, and we welcome those requests in the future.
And you did a great job advocating for, I mean, as you can see, that the community service piece was a really good idea, and you guys really came together and thought about it, and I think, Mr. Talbot and, listened and heard you, and he's thinking about how he can add that, so I think it's
Yeah,
really.
because that's like one of the visions of the graduate too. It's like part of it, so.
We talked about that at the community level for sure, so that's going to become a reality, Joe. The question just becomes what is the standard, right, to earn that distinction?
Yeah.
That's what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be
Great
like
job.
a different number of hours.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
And how can we phase it in so our current high school students can also be eligible for it, and it's not just something that starts with the class of 2030, so.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, future meeting dates and topics. I know we got a little discombobulated. Hope you guys enjoyed the extended February vacation, by the way.
Did.
So your next meeting is 3/17. Again, there's some budget presentations happening that night. We will give you the first draft of the school year 26-27 calendar. I'm not sure where you all are at with making connections with the elected officials on dates that they want to come, but we did schedule, I think, through April as well.
Have you reached out to any of the?
I have not, because I don't know if we confirmed the dates. March dates, I don't see April.
April, I think it's still the first.
So it's April 7th is the first Tuesday. The third Tuesday of that month, April 21st, is April vacation.
So did we pick a second one?
I don't think so. I would suggest that you do the 14th, just so you leave yourself enough time in case you need the 28th, because you are backing up to needing a public budget hearing ahead of town meeting on the 19th,
So we're looking at 4/7, 4/14.
correct. And if needed, you may also need 4/28.
So we should put that in too.
Although we were going to have, at some point, talk about the MIAA issue, but sometime, we have a lot to talk about first.
Yeah, no, future topics, that was.
Future topic, yeah.
I think that actually has to be a vote of the committee to open that up, but I'll double check.
And I have a question for,
14th.
is snow removal budget within our budget?
Nope.
So the town pays for snow and ice. Our only cost associated with snow removal is that of our maintenance staff that do really the sidewalks and the entrances to the building. Whenever possible, we try to do it during their shift hours. But if we do pay overtime for weekends or outside of work hours. But we use our building utilization fund. So when people pay us rent for the buildings, the overtime for snow removal.
And I know they're, I think, on their agenda, but is there a possibility that because of how much snow removal is going to be this year, that they might come back with different numbers for us?
I'm not sure. I have not heard any of that. We did have a call earlier today where FEMA is looking to pick up some of the costs associated with snow removal for Sunday and Monday as part of the storm. We did not have any costs on our side for those 2 days. If the timeline gets extended till Tuesday, we would have some costs associated with our maintenance staff, but Bill has not at this point
Yeah, I'm just worried about like on the
adjusted.
town side, like if it's reading about other towns, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a significant storm.
Yeah, but I mean, this whole winter, in general of it just blowing through what was predicted for their budget, so I'm just
Yeah,
worried
so
about.
snow and ice is one of the lines that can deficit spend, and generally, that is something that closes out at the fall town meeting of the following year. So free cash is obviously a great option for things like that, because ideally, those are one-time expenses.
Speaking of snow, can we clarify what the last day of school now is?
Yes, the current last day of school is Monday, June 22nd. That is our 5th day. That is the way our calendar has been scheduled. So by law, in the state of Massachusetts, we schedule for 185 days on our calendar. So 180 school days plus 5 weather days. So when families are making plans, families and staff, when they're making plans for vacations, you should always be mindful of what that day 185 is, not necessarily what day 180 is. I think another point that I would just like to make in relation to how and when the decision is made if school is happening or not happening, I receive a tremendous amount of feedback, and I appreciate it all. I will say to you all that there is not one person out there in the world more than me that wants to know immediately whether there's going to be school or not school. We notify as early as we possibly can. I do not sit in a bunker in my basement and make a decision without watching the weather or looking outside. It is true that there is a listserv of all superintendents on the South Shore, and we all bounce ideas off each other. And in fairness, nobody ever wants to be the first one to cancel school, but there is no conspiracy. I don't do whatever they're doing in Norwell or automatically do whatever they're doing in Hanover. I've received a lot of feedback. I do live in Hanover. I live in Hanover on the Pembroke line. I live one street away from Captain Torrey. So contrary to what people do post on Facebook, I do really care about the safety of the roads. I took Mary Beth, Mark, and Mrs. Cross on a school bus last week with Mr. Evans to drive through some of our tightest neighborhoods like Furnace Colony, down Oldham Street where we were getting reports of it not being plowed. It was a scary ride. It is definitely something I recommend that people, if you're on the edge of knowing whether it's safe or not safe, take a ride on a school bus, and that will help you make a decision. A lot of our staff helped shovel. We were out there all day on Tuesday shoveling in hopes that Wednesday would be a school day. It did not end up being in the cards for us based off of the state of the town. I can assure you that these 5 schools in Pembroke were ready to open for Wednesday morning. But again, a whole lot of it goes into it, and it is not a game of throwing one town department under the bus versus another, right? So I'm not going to say it was the police department that said no. It's a cumulative decision. We spoke every single day, multiple times a day on conference calls through the town. And we make the decision with the most accurate information that we have at the time, and we try to do it as soon as we possibly can. I understand that families need to plan. But at the end of the day, as a parent, you have the right to make the decision to send your student to school or not send your student to school. So.
And one more question, if there's a 6th snow day, do we keep going?
We keep going. So by law, you can go until June 30th.
Fantastic.
But the great news is they got to school on Friday, and that saved a day, so.
Saved a day. We've used 5 weather days. In part because we used a 2-hour delay on the 2nd day of the last storm, so that saved us a little bit as well. It looks so far like the weather for the next couple of weeks, it's warm, and so I don't anticipate additional weather days. We're not at a place where we're talking about Saturday school or canceling April vacation, though I have received all of those suggestions as well. Remote learning is no longer an option. The state does not count that as time. Adding a few minutes to every day does not count either. It has to be 180 instances of school days. So. I received a lot of feedback.
For what it's worth, I think you did a great job.
I do too.
I think we should also thank, it was a thankless storm, and for any of you that are close to my age and remember the blizzard of '78, we were out of school for 3 weeks, and they actually added an X period to our day, and they extended the day. I think it was an extra 30 minutes for anyone who's old enough to remember. And if I hear one more weather person trying to compare the two of these to each other, I was out of my house literally the next day on this storm, and I said, 3 weeks later, I was still in my house up on the North Shore. So they're not close. The technology is different. 4-wheel drive cars weren't around. Anyone that walked on Route 128 and had their car towed, if you can imagine, 128 had 400 cars on it. So, but the DPW did a great job. I will tease them. One of their front-end loaders got stuck in my front yard and actually ripped up part of my driveway, which I'll be fixing in the spring. Probably at my expense, but thank you very much.
Definitely at your expense.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
They did a great job. Honestly, I had to drive my mom back to Middleborough on, I think, Tuesday, because she stayed at my house. And honestly, people were complaining that Pembroke's roads were bad, and then they drove into Halifax, it was good. They were not good in Halifax. They were worse in Halifax, and they were even worse in Middleborough. So Pembroke did a great job, in my opinion, so I'm just saying.
Well, a little
Give it
shout out.
back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We all set? We'll take a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. To our studio audience, thank you. To the man behind the controls. Thank you very much.